It's an old case, 14-year-old case of adjusted gross revenue, and there is some breaking development which my colleague Abhimanyu is gathering will impact the entire space. Abhimanyu, fill us in.
Well, this is a massive setback for telecom companies since the Supreme Court has accepted the DOT's definition of adjusted gross revenue and thousands of crores will have to be paid in totality. The amount which was determined by DOT, it was amounting to more than 92,000 crores which was to be paid by different telecom companies, ranging from 21,000 crores to be paid by Airtel to as low as 2,000 crores to be paid by MTNL. So of course, this is a big setback for all the telecom companies who were a party to this case, in which the centre's appeal has been allowed. And the centre's appeal has been allowed in this particular case, and the appeals filed by telecom companies have been dismissed. So, of course, it's a big setback for telecom companies. The Supreme Court is still clarifying under which time any remedies can be sought, and the implementation of this judgment has to take place, which particularly means that in what time the payment has to be made by telecom companies. The Supreme Court has said that no more than 6 months would be allowed as far as payment to be made by telecom companies to the union government is concerned.
Before I go to Naveen Kulkarni to get an assessment on the financials of these main telecom companies, I would like to understand from you if you would have a view on how telecom company will go about. Obviously, do they have an option or window still to challenge it?
Well, technically speaking, they have a possibility of challenging this verdict of the apex court. They can file a review petition, but it's something which is to be seen as of now. That the Supreme Court judgment which has been delivered today, when the entire copy comes out, more details would come out in the public domain as to when, till when the judgment has to be implemented and the payment has to be made. And based on that itself, the time would be available to the telecom companies to challenge this verdict delivered by the top court, and what it would imply in the larger perspective as far as any further challenge to this verdict is concerned. So clearly, the Supreme Court has made it clear that they have allowed the centre's appeal and has dismissed the appeals filed by telecom companies, and except for one or two cases, the definition of adjusted gross revenue given by DOT has been upheld.
Right. Abhimanyu, stay with me. Let's also go to Naveen Kulkarni. Naveen, as you must be listening to my colleague on this very important issue, Bharti Airtel is down quite a bit, 4-5%. Vodafone too, but it's a very small stock, 9% lower. Have they made provisions of it so far? How will the financials be impacted for these companies in your view? Should it, are they made to pay?
So, prima facie, if you ask me, the number of, let's say, 92,000 crores, which is spread across various companies, and Bharti would be the company with the largest liability of 21,000 crores. I don't believe there is so much provision which has been made by the companies in the past. There could have been some provision. Also, it remains to be seen whether this number will be contested or not. Right, so that is another aspect which is going to be very, very critical. The calculation of 21,000 crores or the 92,000 crores, and whether that will be contested in the future or not. Whether it is actually that huge a number or not is something which remains to be seen. So I don't believe that there is that big a provision which has been made by telecom companies. But I think we'll have to wait and watch clearly what is the actual amount which is actually going to be paid by telecom company if this verdict continues to hold.
Naveen, stay with us. Abhimanyu and Naveen, both of you. Our colleague Sunita Nagpal is also with us. Sunita, how are you analyzing this which has come in? How much was it in the price? Clearly the stock reaction doesn't seem to be telling. What's your own analysis?
Well, I don't think so. I agree with Naveen that there was no provisions made by the companies for this judgment not going in their favor. And if you look at between Bharti and Vodafone, both of the companies have to pay roughly about 50,000 crore rupees. And you already know that Vodafone is really struggling for fundraising. They had raised, both the companies had raised 25,000 crore each a few months back only, and we also believe that Vodafone will need to raise more funds going forward. Even Bharti Airtel, there is also news that the Bharti Infratel Indus merger may not happen that easily. There is some objections coming from one of the parties, so there could be some problem with Bharti Airtel. There was a expectation that a lot of balance sheet deleveraging will happen because they were monetizing some of the assets. But now with this announcement or this case not going in their favor, there are a lot of things needs to be done. Another thing I would like to clarify is the companies I had spoken to before this judgment came. I asked them whether they had any recourse post this judgment not going in their favor, and they said that's unlikely. They don't have any because this was a 3-judge bench which announced pronounced the judgment. So there is unlikely they can take further steps going forward. They can only go for the review, and there is unlikely to be any change in the judgment because it's a 3-judge bench, and very rarely the judgments are changed. So they'll have to really figure out with the government how they can pay these, whether that can be these amount can be paid over a period, or whether they have to pay it right now, right away. There will be a lot of struggle these companies will have to go through. Bharti Airtel has a little longer runway as far as funds are concerned, but Vodafone will be in deep trouble if this amount has to be paid.
Naveen, what would you say about what Surita was talking about on the ability of these companies, because the room to wriggle out of this situation is very little. How do you see the financial condition of these companies to deal with this impact?
No, it's no secret that the financial situation of Indian telecom companies is pretty challenging. So Idea Vodafone, if you look at the net debt to equity ratio, closer to 10 times. So that's no secret on that aspect. So I think this is a big setback for the telecom companies. I'm still skeptical about the amount which the telecom companies will actually have to shell out, whether it is that big a number as has been reported in the media, or whether the number comes out to be actually much lower. So that is the only area which I think is something which we will be watchful about. But as far as this setback is concerned, I think this is a huge setback. And if it is actually that amount of, let's say, around 21,000 crores for Bharti Airtel, I think that much amount of debt plus de-rating of the stock means a huge pressure on the equity of the company.
Naveen, as far as I understand, there is an original amount that the government had demanded, plus there are some penalties because there is a delay and interest cost that has taken the original amount to this 25,000 crore per company. That's what I believe. Do you think there could be an option with them going and negotiating with the government that they just pay the original amount and not pay the penalty? Could that be some solution that can be worked out looking at the financial position that the companies are in?
Yeah, of course, all those things will have to be worked out because what is applicable for one company is applicable for others also, right? So, for example, there are companies which have filed for bankruptcy also, right? And whether those companies will also have to pay that amount, and whether every company will be measured with the same yardstick or not is something which remains to be seen. So, companies which have more or less wound up their businesses, and they may or may not pay this amount, and what rules will be applicable to them. So I think so that's a very, very complicated subject. What exact amount needs to be paid, and how much will actually be get paid, right? So that remains to be seen. I think there will be a lot of negotiations to and forth happening because the sector is in very bad shape at this point in time.
Naveen, stay with us. I'll just take one question to Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu, as far as I understand, after this, the legal recourse is only a review of this judgment, and where also if you go by the track record or the rate of reversing of judgments, it's very, very low. Do you have any idea whether the companies can go to any other medium or anywhere to oppose this judgment?
Well, as of now, the telecom companies have urged the Apex Court to grant them more time and not to set a deadline for payment, which the court, as of now, has just stopped short of passing an order for deadline. It will pass a separate order in this regard, is what the Apex Court has told as of now. After delivering the verdict, the judges, they were requested by the councils for telecom companies to not set a deadline and give them time to pay money and also to seek the legal recourse. It's, of course, very much likely that telecom companies will file a review petition, but as you very rightly pointed out, the success rate of review petitions is extremely low. However, in several areas in which companies or individuals have approached the court in review petitions and they had a valid case, the Apex Court, of course, has reversed judgments too. So legally and technically speaking, there is still a theoretical possibility that telecom companies might have some relief, but as of now, it can be construed as a big setback since the Apex Court has made it amply clear in as many words that the money has to be paid by telecom companies. However, it has just stopped short of putting a deadline for it and will pass a separate order in that regard, over which we will keep an eye about. But as of now, the money is to be paid, though a deadline has not yet been set. Of course, the telecom companies would of course now go back to prepare their review petitions in order to file them and again argue the case before the top court as far as seeking the review of this judgment is concerned.
Stay with us. Naveen requests you to also hang on with us. I'll get a valuation check from you in some time. But the point which we were discussing, the legal angle, we need to take that forward with Mr. Ranina, who's also on the phone line. Sir, you clearly know about the big setback for telcos. The Supreme Court has announced its judgment. The three judges have actually announced it. How are you looking at the options available in front of the companies now? Review petition in your view, or some other legal options, recourse, is still available?
No, I don't think many options are available because this is a Supreme Court verdict and there's no way we can go beyond that. It is the law of the land under Article 141 of the Constitution of India. But review petition, as you have been mentioning, is only if there's a patent error or if there's some point, important critical point which has been overlooked by the Supreme Court. Only then a review petition would be entertained. So while companies may just try to get some more time by filing a review petition, unless they have a very strong legal case, I don't think the review petition will stand the test of time. It will just be dismissed. So ultimately, they'll have to pay the money, and the sooner they pay, the better for them, because they'll have to make provision for the same.
Ranina, just one more question. As some of my colleagues were saying that review petition at best is a chance, and also perhaps some kind of a negotiation on the tenure of the payment over which it can be made. Do you think that's possible to work around? Because such a large sum in outright manner could impact these companies.
Yeah, that of course is a possibility. They will always ask the court to, give them some time. That court on its own will be very considerate and very liberal. I don't think that will be an issue at all. So certainly they will get enough installments to pay over a period of time, and that should not put any undue burden on the telecom company.
Typically, how long can the tenure be extended, in your view?
In my view, around, they may say you pay 1/4 over, say, every 2 months over a period of 8 months, the matter may get paid off. It all depends on the court. It's the discretion of the court. And of course, the telco companies will have to show that they are going to suffer prejudicially in case they have to pay the amount very fast, very soon. And they can ask for time. So it all depends on the facts of the case and how they present their case to the courts.
All right, Mr. Ranina, stay with us. Sanjeev Bhasin is also here with us from IIFL to help us understand the market impact. Mr. Bhasin, you may have seen the order, I'm sorry, and the stock reaction as well. Before I go to how banks will deal with this, because after all, they are also, the telecom companies have a huge amounts of debt right now already, and now this payment liability has come in. How do you see the reaction coming in on the stock prices? 8-10% cut coming in on Bharti Airtel in particular.
Well, we know that the leverage has been the pain for Bharti and Vodafone, and Bharti suffered more too because of the Africa business. Vodafone has been trying to keep itself into the in the phase and has, has had to see its deep pockets. So this is only going to add to the problem. But it's a one-off. We know that this has been pending, and so like I said, I think they've also got the freedom that IUC charges are waived when they've been able to raise prices. So Ajay, if you ask me the immediate short-term impact, it may last for another day or so. But I would say that these are all opportunities, because I think pricing is going to be back. ARPUs are going to be protected over a period of time, and that is where the government should give them more leverage, because it's a three-leg play. So in the present term, Reliance will definitely be the best of the lot, because they are not going to be, there's no impact. But I think over a period of time, this should settle down, and we think prices on the charges are definitely on data and on the voice are going to be up.
Mr. Bhasin, 21,000 crore payment due on Bharti, 15 to 19,000 crore others as well. How badly could the financials or the earnings or profitability of these companies could be impacted over a period of time because of this sudden payment which has come up? Because Naveen was telling earlier, they haven't really provided much for it yet.
Correct. So, like I said, see, there is a lot of legality which will be there. Let's see what that comes. What is the timeline they get to pay that, and how the impact is. So, we'll have to hear from the companies, but on the face of it, like we said, I think they should get about a year's time to clear this backlog with interest, and that should play off over a period of time. This was one thing which was a setback which was coming, and Supreme Court has delivered. So, you'll have to stand up and bear the pain.
Right. Right. Mr. Bhasin, stay with us. We have Mr. Sirohi, who's also former telecom member of the board, of the Telecom Commission board actually. He's also with us to help us understand the judgment and its implication on the sector. Mr. Sirohi, what do you make of what has come out and the impact on telecom companies?
Well, I have not gone through the judgment so far, but in my opinion, the judgment, it has come for whatever way it has come now. So it's quite fair and right, because the earlier AGR, in whichever way it was defined, was slightly having some gaps in terms of definition. And I think all the operators at that time took advantage of that. And they shortchanged in terms of consideration of revenue. And it was a loss to the government. And since they have not been paying for last many years, it has to be recovered from them only. So it's and whatever profits they made at that time, they came whatever they saved in terms of not following strict AGRs in terms of its definition. Whatever they saved, it was their profit. So now, after so many years, if the decision is coming, which is fair and right, they are responsible for it, and they have to pay back.
Right, Mr. Sirohi, actually you're making a very interesting point that the telecom companies had enough time, and there was clearly a gap in the definition, because of which unduly the companies have actually benefited in financially over the period of time. So now if it gets reversed, clearly the payment is due. But do you think that they should be given some amount of time, given the financial condition of these companies burdened with debt? Do you think that much, some reasonable amount of time or renegotiation on the payment can be, that window should be offered to them, or you think that there's no case for that?
No, there can be a case for that, considering the condition of the financials of these companies. But as far as the legality of the thing is concerned, the decision is absolutely right, and this all should be recovered from them. Now, in what manner, with what time frame it has to be done, it has to be decided by the government.
Mr. Sirohi, Mr. Bhasin, Sunita, Naveen, all of you, thank you so much for joining us and helping us understand this, a very important setback for the telecom sector.